Welcome to Living Transplant,
the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the transplant program at Toronto General Hospital
and brings you open and honest conversations about the transplant experience.
My name is Courtney, and I'm the communications specialist for the Center for Living Organ Donation.
And my name is Brittany. I'm a bedside nurse in the Ajmera Transplant Center.
Full disclosure, we are not physicians.
No, and we are not here to give you medical advice.
Think of us like your guides through the world of transplant as we know it.
Whether transplant is your past, present, or future, your passion or your curiosity,
Living Transplant will show you the world of transplant like you've never seen it before.
Welcome back to Living Transplant. This week on our podcast, we have one of our transplant pharmacists, Dipika Munyal. She's amazing, she's fun, she's exciting, and she brings a very light and fresh perspective on transplant pharmacy.
And she makes pharmacy interesting too and easy to understand. Not saying that I think pharmacy is boring, but it's not really something I ever would have thought of before you suggested her as a guest. So definitely learned a lot this episode.
Yeah.
Very complicated.
Very, very complicated, but she makes it interesting for sure. This week, or was it this week, Courtney, or was it it was in January. So quite a while ago, but I'm only catching myself up to speed with one of our reviews on Apple Podcasts. Courtney, do you want to read it to us?
Ooh, yeah, for sure. So this review is Break Out the Kleenex, 5 stars, of course. Even as a living donor, I realize there's so much about transplant that I don't know. Beautiful podcast that is both emotional and informative. Some episodes definitely have me in tears, so highly recommend keeping the Kleenex handy. Thanks for that.
I am such a suck because I hear that and get full body chills. Right?
Aww.
Behind the scenes on the podcast, we have a volunteer. Her name is Maya, and she's a nursing student at UIT. You'll hear her at the end of the episode asking some of the questions, just so you're not like, who's this person? She is an amazing nursing student that's helping us out.
Yes, and her help has been awesome. And hopefully you'll hear more of her on the show in episodes to come.
Mm-hmm. This episode, we talk about the complex world of anti-rejection and immunosuppression and the effects that transplant drugs may have on someone's libido. Because, I love talking about sexual health and how it affects transplant. So I just had to slip those questions into that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I never would have thought about how transplant drugs really affect your life, from everything to sexual health to what you can eat to infection, all this stuff that I had never really thought of.
So sit back, have a listen, enjoy, make sure you take your meds at the same time every day, 12 hours apart, 9 and 9, 8 and 8, don't care, take your meds, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Living Transplant, Dipika.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So what is your connection to transplant?
So I didn't join the transplant unit having a pre-existing relationship or connection to transplant per se. I started my career at UHN at the Toronto General Hospital for a residency program. So I rotated all throughout the hospital. I did different rotations. I never did a transplant rotation. It was nothing that I was ever interested in, and it was nothing I ever learned about in school. So it was a very foreign area to me. Mm-hmm. When I finished my residency, I got a position working in cardiology. Mm-hmm. So patients who were undergoing PCIs or stenting, cardiac stenting. So it was kind of a short stay unit. I was covering a maternity leave. And at that point, when I graduated school, getting a job at an institution like UHN in hospital was super tough. And you took whatever position came your way. I wanted to get into this hospital. I didn't want to work anywhere else because I was so influenced by teachers and professors that I had at university. So U of T was very affiliated with UHN. And that's who I learned from.
Amazing.
So working in cardiology, the 1-year maternity leave was coming up to an end. And I was approached by my now current practice leader, my clinical site leader, Jennifer Harrison, if I would be interested in transplant. And I'm telling you, I was very apprehensive because it was an area that I didn't know much about. And I had the opportunity to try it. And then after that 1 year elapsed, I was also told or offered that I could go back to cardiology if a position came up, or nephrology, which is what I really had a interest in. And I did not want to leave transplant. I fell in love with it.
What were some of the things that made you fall in love with it?
The impact that you could play as a pharmacist in the lives of these patients in helping improve outcomes. There was a big role with immunosuppression, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So the survival of the graft is very dependent on patients taking their medications and taking their medications correctly. And as a pharmacist, you have a direct role in helping shape that.
And so I guess comparing it to your role in the cardiac program prior to transplant, would you say that the pharmacist has a bigger role in transplant than it does in the cardiac program?
And not a bigger role, a different role.
A different role. Okay.
It was a cardiac short stay unit, and I wouldn't see patients for as long of a time that I am seeing patients now on transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Once the patient would have their procedure and they would go home on, this is in cardiology, once they would have their stenting done, they would go home on certain antiplatelet medications. And you didn't have the same opportunity to see patients over and over again, which we do in transplant, which I actually love. And the opportunity for being involved in certain medications and drug levels and screening for drug interactions and interactions with other non-transplant medications is different, or was not there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So you kind of get to see like how the drugs work in the long-term effect kind of perspective. Oh, that's really neat. Cool.
So how long have you worked for TJH then, Dipika?
I started in 2004
Uh-huh.
and then moved over to Transplant in 2006.
Okay.
This might be a very silly question, but as someone who has a way different background than everyone here, what do you have to study to become a pharmacist?
Okay.
Is that
it's
a really
not a
dumb
stupid question. It's
Okay.
actually really smart because I don't think I know that one.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what I did. It might not be the same now. It's quite different now. And even before what I did, people could go into pharmacy school after high school.
Wow.
So as an undergrad degree.
That scares me.
Oh, as an undergrad degree.
As an
Okay.
I see. Courtney and I both thought the same
Well,
thing.
it's not
We're like, wait, what?
No.
Sorry.
Because nurses used to be able to do that. Like way back when, you could go from high school right into the hospital, Courtney.
That's insane. That
Yeah.
scares me so much.
Yeah.
That kind of piqued my interest into pharmacology and how the body works and how drugs work on the body. And then after I did the biochemistry degree, I did a next year, kind of an honors year towards my master's in pharmacology physiology, because that's what I was really interested in. After that, I had done some pure and applied like lab research in Ottawa at the Ottawa Regional Cancer Center. And I realized very quickly that lab work was not for me. I couldn't do it. I'm not a researcher. I am not meticulous enough in that sense with plating cells on a dish and watching them grow in an incubator. I was very unhappy doing that. Mm-hmm. I knew I needed to work with people. So I wanted to take that kind of love of science and how the body works and how drugs work on the body into applying it with patients. And then pharmacy seemed to be in line with that. Then after that year of research, which didn't make me a happy person, I applied to pharmacy school. And at that time, University of Toronto was the only program in Ontario. So I left Ottawa and moved to Toronto to do pharmacy. So it wasn't until my last year of pharmacy school that we started to get lecturers from UHN, from cardiology, from nephrology, from infectious diseases that would come in and give us therapeutics lectures. And then I was like, wow, this is great. And in order to get in, the best way to gain knowledge or to get a job or to become a hospital pharmacist as a profession was to do a 1-year residency.
Right. Let's get into transplant meds.
Okay.
Anti-rejection and immunosuppression. What is it?
So, as you know, the patients that we have had either liver transplants, kidney transplants, lung, pancreas, heart transplants. These new grafts have to stay healthy and viable in the recipient's body. And the only way that could happen is if the recipient's body does not reject or attack or view this new organ, because they view this new organ as foreign, right? Our body's smart way of keeping things healthy and normal. Immunosuppressants decrease the body's ability to fight or attack the graft.
Are they on them for life?
Patients are on these immune suppressants for life. The doses change. The combination of them may change. And the target levels, as I said, the doses may change, reflecting the target levels or how high of a dose we need or how much of a concentration in the blood is required to maintain organ function at any given state.
And yeah, that makes sense. From a non-medical, whatever, I don't need to preface every question that way. But so why isn't the body always just aware that the organ is foreign? Like why does the dosage change over time? Because obviously, obviously, I assume it goes down, but why does it go down? Does the body partially recognize it? Like, how does that work?
It's like the body kind of gives up fighting so hard over time. Usually patients we put patients maybe on 3 immune suppressants at most to start off with. So Courtney, you've probably seen this on the floor. So either cyclosporin or tacrolimus.
Courtney's a comm specialist.
Yeah, I'm in communications. I'm not on the floor.
Oh, I thought maybe you had visited or seen.
I have, but I don't know any of the things you just said.
Patients all the time. So cyclosporin or tacrolimus, a steroid. So they'll start off with a high dose of an intravenous medication of a steroid and then get transitioned to an oral form called prednisone. And then a third anti-rejection medication called either mycophenolate or azathioprine. So majority of patients start off with a cocktail of 3 medications. And then as time goes on, for example, in the liver transplant program, over time, patients just may end up on 1 out of those 3, like tacrolimus or cyclosporin, and they may not be on Myfortic or Cellcept anymore, and their prednisone may be weaned off as well. Same with kidney transplant patients. Lots of kidney transplant patients in the long run are maybe off prednisone depending on how good the match is between the recipient and the donor organ. So, and then lung transplant patients tend to be on the most highest dose and most immune suppression as compared to other organ groups.
That was going to be one of the questions, is which organ takes the most anti-rejection meds? Why is that?
So the lung is the most delicate, I call it the most delicate organ. It's open to the air. It's most prone to infection. It's the biggest kind of surface area organ. A lot of times these patients are more sick coming into hospital, and it's almost like we have to handle this organ as more fragile, if that makes
perfect sense.
Absolutely.
A cocktail usually of 3 anti-rejection medications for a longer period of time, if not forever.
Okay. I have a question. How does being on immunosuppressants affect the ability to fight off infections?
So your ability to fight off infections is greatly stunted. The anti-rejection medications or immune suppressants that we have today aren't kind of how I explain it to patients is these drugs aren't smart enough to just immune suppress the parts of you that are looking at this foreign graft.
Yeah.
So you're totally immunosuppressed. So the ability to fight off infections, or what we call, like, the most common is opportunistic infections, is impaired. So we have to provide these patients with, or prescribe to them, anti-infection medications as well. So medications to prevent oral thrush or fungus overgrowth in the mouth.
Nystatin.
Nystatin, you got it. In an antiviral medication to fight off viruses in the herpes family of viruses. So
Acyclovir.
or Valgan.
Why is that only for lungs? Why are lung patients only on acyclovir? Why not livers?
And you have other patients on it too.
Because like lungs are always on. This is more of like a nursing question, but lungs are always on acyclovir and Septra every other day. Why is it that lungs are not? Sorry, why is it that lungs are on acyclovir and Septra, like standing, or what's the other one? Is it thermycin? And as opposed to a liver or a KP.
So our protocol, and these could be one-offs for whatever reason. Maybe they're also getting treatment for another infection. But our protocol for PCP, or for an infection of the lungs called pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, or PJP, pneumocystis gyrovecii infection. I didn't want to get so detailed.
I was going to see these show notes are going to be crazy.
Is Septra, which you mentioned, and we dose it at Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 3 times weekly for our liver transplant patients after their liver enzymes have stabilized. For lung transplant patients, if they have cystic fibrosis, we use a higher dose, but still Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Heart transplant patients use the Septra, or this prevention antibiotic, once a day.
Do they transplant patients with HIV?
Yes.
And what organ would they get if they were a recipient?
No, so for example, I have HIV and I need a kidney transplant. No problem.
Okay.
And then the role of the pharmacist is managing those medications that the patient is on for HIV.
Yeah.
And managing those medications that the patients need for their new kidney, and make sure that we're monitoring drug levels really well, that we're not causing undue toxicity.
Yeah. Okay. Going way back in our conversation. No, that wasn't a dig at you, Britt, but just like, this was a little while ago. But you had talked about the anti-rejection medication not being smart enough to just attack kind of the rejection around the graft.
Or just to suppress the body's immunity. It only looks at the graft. It suppresses the body's immunity from head to toe.
Yeah. So is that a possibility, like, that it could ever get that smart?
I think that would be amazing. That would be like a great future of transplant medicine.
If it could just like recognize, if the drug could go, you just had a liver transplant, let's say, and the drug could recognize, okay, go and attack the liver, don't attack anything else.
Or don't attack the liver.
Oh, yes.
Don't attack. Okay. The drug could say to the body, keep your immunity to make sure that you're surveying for infections that we don't want you to get. But let's just not attack, let your immunity not attack your liver. That's something like that you hear people have talked about, something like tolerance. That's the future. That's something that Dr. Levy is very interested in.
Yeah.
I just remember him saying that the future of transplant is like no anti-rejection meds, but I guess they would be very different if they were able to just perform the like one function that we use them for, as opposed to all of them.
You want your body to just be blind to the graft.
Yeah.
That's like the penalty.
Perfect.
That's the perfect scenario. And why people want immune suppressions, not only for the risk of infections, that you would like to lower the doses of immune suppression or get off immune suppression. It's immunosuppressive drugs have side effects.
I was just going to ask, what a beautiful segue.
What a beautiful segue.
Beautiful. What are the side effects of immunosuppressants?
There are many. this is again a big part of my job, to help monitor and identify or predict side effects that may happen to a patient, to be able to manage them or to avoid them. For instance, both cyclosporin and tacrolimus, we monitor levels in these for both of these drugs, levels in the patient's blood. So one side effect we want to monitor for and look out for is tremor. So unsteadiness of the hands. Yep. Increased blood sugar. So we want to get doses down low. Tacrolimus has a higher incidence or risk of it versus cyclosporin. We know that steroids or prednisone can also increase blood sugar, that cyclosporin and tacrolimus can also increase blood pressure. So we're always monitoring blood pressure, have to put patients preemptively on antihypertensive medications, or we have to put patients on insulin after transplant because their blood sugar is high, going back to increases in blood sugar. These medications can cause increase in lipids. Sometimes patients have to go on anti-cholesterol medications.
Okay. Yeah. So if someone has a terrible reaction to one of the drugs, say they have like, I don't know, I don't even know what example, I can't give an example, but like, are there alternatives to each drug that you can like swap them out and see?
Yeah, we'll swap them out. Okay. For instance, of late, or I shouldn't say of late, but patients who experience perhaps like a seizure on a certain medication, we'd have to switch them from, say, one to the other. So tacrolimus to cyclosporin.
Why are patients put on steroids after transplant?
For anti-rejection. Steroids have very broad level, a broad mechanism of action in that where they're targeting different parts of the immune pathway, decreased inflammation.
Okay. I feel like steroids are always one of those things that
they're magical.
They seem very random, the things that I've like seen people take them for, magical. Where it's like, what, why?
They're not without side effects.
Yeah. What does rejection look like? Like what starts to happen when your body goes into rejection?
So it depends on the organ.
Okay.
So think of, kidney. If your kidney stops working, urine output goes down, creatinine goes up.
Oh, okay.
They look at that on a biopsy.
Okay.
Lung, pulmonary function tests, or patients have shortness of breath, difficulty breathing.
Okay.
Liver, blood work, liver enzymes go up, or they might, severe cases start to get jaundiced.
Okay, so you basically just go back into
whatever function that organ was performing, the function goes down.
And are there a lot of warning signs, or is it kind of like you start showing like immediate signs of organ failure?
I think it depends on the extent. I know what you mean. I think it depends on the extent of dysfunction, and patients. That's a reason that we do such frequent blood work on these patients, even as outpatients, to look at markers of rejection. So maybe even before physical symptoms manifest, like liver enzymes would go up, or bilirubin.
I guess I was thinking of liver, because I feel like once you're in like liver failure and it's very obvious externally, like it's usually you're pretty far gone. Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the roles as a transplant coordinator, is to monitor those levels.
You got it.
Do immunosuppressant medications make you more susceptible to sun damage?
Sure. So we tell all patients to wear a broad spectrum, like covering both UVA, UVB, so SPF coverage of 30 or at least 30 or higher.
Yeah.
So some of these medications that we put patients on post-transplant can make your skin more sensitive to the sun. And also it affects the way in which your body surveys like sun damage.
Okay.
Right. Well, I think the statistic is actually really bad, that a transplant patient is almost 100 times more at risk of getting a skin cancer than someone that's not on immunosuppression.
Wow. That's pretty big.
And they see transplant dermatology on a frequent basis, and they're to stay out of the sun, wear sunscreen, wear light long sleeve clothing.
I didn't know that they were 100 times more susceptible to sun damage.
Yeah, that's wild.
That is wild.
Crazy.
What's the most important part about taking anti-rejection meds?
To me, it's not forgetting them and being consistent.
Most important.
Yep.
I feel like not as many patients understand that. I'm not sure what it is, but
It's hard
it is very hard.
To be on a big cocktail of medications for the rest of your life with knowing or perceiving the side effects or experiencing the side effects.
Yeah.
Them on the long term, having, to stop what you're doing in the day to make sure that you're taking your medications at the appropriate times.
Yeah.
We really try to make it as easy as possible. So we try and group together many of their medications for first thing in the morning. So they can all be taken together, their immunosuppressants. And then again, the majority or the crux of their medications for bedtime dosing. So we try and make the majority of their medications morning and night.
That's right. Yeah.
So I do recognize that it's hard. We do.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Dipika, I work with a lot of living donors. Like I kind of joke that I get to hear all like the good stories that come out of, or the happy stories that come out of transplant. And in my role, when I first started, I feel like I would often forget that transplant is a treatment, not a cure. And I feel like this conversation is like such good proof of that, is like your life changes. Obviously you're not an organ failure anymore, but like there are certain things that you have to be mindful of for the rest of your life, and you have to like take care of your transplant, which I think is sometimes it's hard to remember that, especially the way things are portrayed, that someone's life, they're not just up and running around and all better after transplant. Like it's a huge lifestyle change.
Lifestyle. Yep, for sure.
Huge.
I mean, as a pharmacist, so we spend a lot of our day, our time, our efforts, our heart goes to educating these patients and helping them with mechanisms to take their medications, remember their medications, to adhere to their medications.
Are there supports in place that help people to adjust to that lifestyle change? Or what are some things you as pharmacists recommend?
So one thing that I feel that we do to help patients adjust to their new medication regimen is something that we implement once they are stable so this is during their transplant admission. So right when they're stable after OR and they're able to swallow oral dosage forms, we enroll patients in a program called the self-medication program. And they spend time with the pharmacist, like myself or one of my colleagues, and we spend time sitting with the patient and teaching them about their new medications. After we teach the patient about this medication, we give it to them physically, and we give them the opportunity to practice while in hospital under our roof, under the supervision of the nurse. So at this point, while they're in hospital, the nurse can identify with the patient if they're having any difficulty. So maybe difficulty calculating the dose or taking it at the appropriate time. We want to identify this sooner than later. Sometimes we will identify issues in hospital, and we will have to think of other ways to help the patient get the correct dose in at the correct time. One strategy we use is blister packing. It works for some people, that we will get all their medications in kind of like a bubble pack. We have a great pharmacy on the 12th floor in our transplant clinic, and they have this immense machine. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
No.
Get a tour. And it is like a huge robot computer that makes blister packs for patients. Doses change based upon drug levels that we're targeting. So that's another reason why sometimes we don't put those medications in the blister pack for a patient, because the doses change so frequently, or they'll get a call from their coordinator or a transplant physician that they have to increase or decrease a certain dose. So it's difficult to pack everything in a blister pack.
this feels a little random, but I know there are certain foods that people have to avoid. Which medications are the ones that interact poorly with like grapefruit juice, or like I know you're not supposed to eat like sushi and stuff like that. Like what are the medications that?
So ask patients to avoid grapefruits and grapefruit juice and pomelo, if you've heard of.
So good.
Actually,
So
Brittany,
good.
little anecdote, but a past transplant recipient that we spoke to said that she remembered Brittany because she was going on and on about how much she loves pomelos, and it was like a new fruit that she had tried and she loved it. And then the girl, when she left hospital, like went to go look it up, and she's like, "Oh crap, that's like
You can eat this."
the one thing I can't have." Thanks for nothing,
Like,
Britt.
don't brag. Because these poor people cannot have it. So grapefruits and grapefruit juice and pomelos, or there's other oranges, Seville oranges that are sometimes marmalade.
But oranges are okay?
Oranges are okay.
Okay, what is it in grapefruit?
What is it?
So it's a component of grapefruits and grapefruit juice interacts or interferes with one of the enzymes in our bodies called CYP3A4. So it's kind of like the engine that metabolizes or processes drugs. The engine that metabolizes or processes drugs could get inhibited or overwhelmed by grapefruits or grapefruit juice. So therefore, drug levels increase. So you get more of this drug to the blood versus being metabolized. So the drug stays around in the blood or in the body for a longer period of time, and maybe at a level or a concentration higher than we want, thereby causing damage or toxicity.
Well, that's
got
wild.
it.
So, and then what about sushi? Is that just because like?
Well, it's being immunosuppressed, like eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Not
Dipika, do some of these transplant medications affect someone's sexual activity or libido or ability to perform?
I don't know why you said it like that.
I don't know. Okay, I'll say it again. Do some of these sorry. Okay. Do some of these transplant meds affect someone's sexual activity or sexual libido?
So, being chronically ill can have effects on your libido or your ability to perform. These medications per se, I think cyclosporin would be the one that would be most at risk for decreasing someone's libido. Erectile dysfunction, I don't think is a very common side effect of the medications per se, but maybe of the disease condition itself. I know that after I've read data about liver transplant patients who are on the waiting list or who have chronic liver disease. They've got a lot of hormone imbalances or a lot of hormone synthesis that goes down. So their libido is down, their drive is down. And then after transplant, they actually notice an improvement. So it's not all bad.
That's great.
Yeah. Wherever we can, Brittany tries to slip in the sexual health questions, just because I feel like it is, as she's pointed out many times, like it's something that's not really talked about. Is that something that you discuss with your patients?
It doesn't come up very much. Maybe it's a comfort level with the patients. Maybe they discuss it more with their coordinators when they're more stable and they're feeling better and their incisions have healed. Birth control is something that does come up. We do talk about patients and having to use birth control because these medications are not all safe to use if you're trying to get pregnant, or they're not safe for a growing fetus. So that is a conversation that comes up.
Do some of these meds affect birth control? Wouldn't Septra affect that? Is it thermycin?
Yeah, so being on antibiotics, whether you're a transplant patient or not, can affect hormone replacement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We get a lot of questions about getting pregnant after transplant. So how does that work, and does it differ for like different organs, I guess? Like how long after transplant can you get pregnant?
So I think the patient has to be stable. They should be stable in terms of their graft function and immunosuppressive levels. And usually what happens is that if a patient is on mycophenolate, or so either Myfortic or Cellcept, that's switched to something else. And perhaps coordinators of the transplant physicians start to lower doses of other immunosuppressants down. But it's, and these patients are referred to kind of like high risk pregnancy group over at Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
To work with them with their immune suppressants and their dosing. And
But it's possible.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so great.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Are these medications expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
They're expensive.
I
So
bet.
one thing, that's another thing we spend a lot of time on as pharmacists, is making sure patients have drug coverage. So we are super lucky here in Ontario. All patients have access to the Trillium drug program. So as long as your taxes are up to date and a financial assessment like can be made based on a household income, every Ontarian is eligible. So if you don't
That's fantastic.
if you don't have a private drug plan, you can qualify for the Trillium drug program, and they will assess how much money that you should pay out of pocket until you reach a certain deductible amount. And a lot of patients have been sick for a really long time, and they are perhaps on disability or Ontario drug benefit allowance. So medications are covered under that. We have, as a part of our transplant pharmacy team, a medication reimbursement specialist, and she helps a lot with helping secure coverage for patients. And I shouldn't say she, there's a team helping secure medication coverage for patients or enrolling them into perhaps patient assistance programs for certain drugs that may not be covered.
So I guess this would answer the next question then. Not having coverage wouldn't stop you from getting a transplant?
I think that if it's identified at the time when the patient is being listed for transplant, that's something that should get them enrolled into Trillium sooner than later, or start the ball rolling. But there have been times where we have had to transplant patients like a fulminant liver.
Right, liver, yeah.
And there is no time to plan. So all that legwork happens during their transplant admission, which is not ideal, which is really not ideal, because you want that, you want that admission to be spent on, or resources to be spent on the patient healing and recovering
right
at the time. So, and it's not a time to be getting information from a patient who's perhaps not doing so well, like to try and have to do their taxes or find paperwork at home or getting family members involved. So the best case scenario is that once you're in need of an organ, or the workup process starts, to get all that hammered out.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I never knew that you would, obviously file your taxes, but I never knew that the reality is that not everyone does, but I didn't think that would necessarily come into play when needing to get a transplant.
Yeah, if you didn't have
any type of, yeah.
And a lot of, maybe this is, hopefully someone will hear this, the person that's getting listed for transplant. A lot of patients will come in and say, oh, no, I have Sun Life, I have Green Shield, I have Blue Cross. Don't worry, I have coverage. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every drug under the sun is going to be a part of perhaps your drug plan's file, or we call it their formulary. So that could be a drug that is not covered for whatever reason. Or maybe your drug plan has transplant as an exclusion. You don't know that. Or maybe, I don't want to be so fatalistic negative, but look at the pandemic era that we're living in. Maybe you lose your job, right? So I really don't think that applying to Trillium or having Trillium as a backup plan, even if you do have private coverage, is a bad
idea.
Yeah, it's an extra in your pocket.
Absolutely.
And you may never have to use Trillium.
Yeah. But yeah, anything to help, because obviously expenses are a big barrier. How much roughly around like per month would the round of immunosuppressants cost?
You know what? I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
I don't know the exact number to tell you. Cyclosporin is given free from our from transplant centers, from our dispensing pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
Tacrolimus could be, depending on a patient's dose, could be maybe $1,000 for a month worth of that medication. Prednisone is pennies. It's not expensive.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, against cyclovir, or the medication to prevent against certain viral infection. That's expensive. Mycophenolate or myfortic, that's costly. Again, maybe hundreds of dollars a month, maybe $500-$600 a month, depending on a patient's dose. Then again, like the dosing range is so variable.
Mm.
But yeah, it could be $1,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
But most of our patients have drug coverage. I really don't know many, or actually any patient who pays
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket, yeah.
Meds are expensive, really expensive. And I can see it as being, I mean, if we weren't in Ontario, or better yet, Canada, I could see this being a serious barrier to you ever getting a transplant.
Oh, 100%. Like, I don't know how people in the US, with all their different, whether they have private plans, I don't even know how they have drug coverage. Like, Obamacare is gone.
I don't get
I
it.
don't know what their state of drug coverage is today.
Or better yet, if they're even covered for a transplant.
Yeah.
It's just something that, as I feel like in Ontario, not that we take it for granted, but it's just not something that we always have to think about on the surface level is the cost. But in Ontario, we automatically, if you hold a OHIP card, it's not the first thing you think of.
You're
Mm-hmm.
lucky.
So lucky. What do you think the future of transplant and pharmacy will look like?
You know, pharmacy's changed so much over the years. I think we're lucky as pharmacists today. There's so many more opportunities for us for teaching, education, being part of the proactive team versus just being, strictly dispensing medications. We talked about maybe new development of new drugs that have less side effects, or that could mitigate the need for monitoring, so much monitoring that we do, or mitigate half of the side effects that we're seeing. But I really do see a continuing role for pharmacists on a transplant team, working together with patients, prescribers, coordinators, the nurses.
Yeah, the pharmacy role is extremely important, like vital. There would be no transplant if there was no, sorry, I was about to say there'd be no transplant if there was no nurse, but there would be no transplant if there was, I know, I'm sorry. There would be no transplant if there was no pharmacist. That is essential, which is why I really wanted to sit down with you. I'm like, how are we missing this massive part of transplant? Because we need to know the importance of these drugs and the role that they play, and in a very candid way, but not in a scary way.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Like, we want to inform, but not overwhelm.
Yeah, exactly.
Educate, yet entertain.
Yes, exactly. Educate, but entertain at the same time.
That's what we're trying to do too.
That's what we're trying to do. Maya has a question. Maya says, do pharmacists assess the patient in the same way that doctors and nurses do? Like, do they see their chart?
Oh, 100%. We're constantly accessing the patient's chart. We're looking at blood levels. We're looking at markers of their graft function, so creatinine, liver enzymes. We're looking at all sorts of different blood work, like your potassium, sodium, magnesium. These are all things that we're monitoring on a daily basis and seeing if we have to supplement. We are looking at, if you've heard of INR, looking to see what if a patient's on a blood thinner. We are looking at blood cultures, laboratory cultures all the time to see if a patient has an infection, to make sure that an antibiotic that we're going to recommend, or make sure it's the best antibiotic or antiviral medication for the patient. Dose adjusting, looking at drug interactions. Yeah, we're in that chart all the time.
Can you? Yeah, I'm okay. Maya, unmute.
So if a patient has a drug related question, can they call the pharmacist themselves, or do they have to call their physician for their questions?
So usually what happens is that the patients kind of filter, or our transplant patients filter everything through their transplant coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a relationship they have with their coordinator. Like, hey, I want to take this, my cardiologist has suggested or would like to prescribe this certain medication for me. Is it safe to use with my transplant medications?
Okay.
The coordinator usually then brings that forward to pharmacy. A lot of times, because we are so lucky to have a specific transplant pharmacy on our 12th floor, a lot of patients, when they are refilling their medications or filling, new medications, they will ask at that point to the pharmacist
Oh, okay.
at the pharmacy. So it goes both ways, but mostly these questions and queries go through the coordinator, because the coordinator also wants to update their file.
Mm-hmm.
They are on this medication, so everybody is on board that this patient is taking this new X medication prescribed by Dr. Y, cardiologist from Sudbury, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay. Well, this was a very informative chat. I learned a lot.
I did too. Like so
I
much
learned
I
a
had
lot.
never even thought about.
Pharmacy is just so complex. It's so complex. And I've worked in transplant for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or something like that. And I still don't completely understand it. Even when the meds are changing, I'm like, I don't get it.
Well, feel free to ask anytime. I've worked with you over the years, and I like the way that you work with members of the team, how you are with patients. I think it's all about kind of collaborating and sharing and communicating, because I think you get more buy-in and engagement from a patient if they understand why they're taking medication.
That's right.
What's it doing for me? Why do I need to take this medication? How is it helping me? Versus just blindly
taking a med.
Everything that you're being prescribed and not understanding.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And to me, that is something that I'm very passionate about, making sure a patient understands why. Sometimes that's why I shy away from blister packs, because then it's just a patient swallowing a bunch of things all together. Sometimes we have no choice. But if they understood each pill and why they needed to take 3 anti-rejections and 3 anti-infections, or why they need to take something now for their heart or their blood pressure or their cholesterol or their blood sugar, it all makes sense.
Dipika, when I first started nursing for a couple of years ago, I was shocked at the amount of people that didn't understand what meds they were taking or what blood pressure pill they were on. You know, those patients that they whip out their wallet and they're like, oh, I have a list right here. And then they're like, oh, and they give you the list and you're like, thank you. And at least they have a list like in their back pocket, but people don't understand what drugs they're taking. And it blows my mind. I'm like, I take vitamin D and I want to know, how does that work in my body? But that's just me. But most people don't understand how these drugs work, why they're taking them, the doses. And granted, it's a lot of medications to understand. It is, like, it really is. And some people, there's a lot of barriers for them to understand them in general, but just why I wanted to have you on the show. Like, I'm like, somebody needs to speak and explain to these listeners how important they are.
We find a lot of times that patients are on such a list of medications, and they're on some medications to treat side effects of another medication.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they didn't need to be on the first medication in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we will conduct, thorough reviews and to see, or maybe a medication got started a long time ago for a certain condition and it never got reassessed, and they don't have that condition anymore. It got treated or it resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So Brittany and I would like to guess what your zodiac sign is. I just wanted to make sure that Brittany had seen that text and that she wasn't expecting me to ask some smart pharmacy question. Britt, what's your guess?
I guess Aries.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I guess Gemini.
Okay. Maya?
Ooh, I don't know. I wasn't ready for this. I don't know. I'm going to take a wild guess and say Virgo.
Okay.
Ooh.
So now can I ask a question back?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you give a justification as to why you picked Virgo, Aries, and Gemini?
I have none. I just guessed.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared.
I picked Gemini because I feel like you're more of an air sign. Air signs like to talk about like a lot about like ideas and kind of like explain things and simplify things and break them down. Like you're very good at that. I feel like also what you were talking about, like working as a team. I know a lot of Aries that are like really good at working, or sorry, Geminis that are really good at like working as team, as part of a team as well. Yeah, I think it was just the way you were kind of like talking about things, and then your dedication to kind of like collaboration for patient care.
Okay, Courtney's answer is way better than mine, but I was just going off of intuition and like feeling. I'm like, I feel like her birthday's coming up.
Guess what?
What?
I'm an Aries.
There you go.
Yes.
You made a slip. You're like an Aries because they. I'm like, oh. So do you realize you did make a slip?
I did. Yeah. That's funny.
Got it. Yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like her birthday's coming up and like sometime in April.
Oh, well, there you go.
When is it?
It's the 6th.
April 6th?
It is.
My dad's birthday is the 4th, and I was like, something reminds me of my dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, something's telling me April. Honestly, we need to start doing this, Courtney.
I know. It's
every
fun.
episode. Like this is, we've been doing it for the last like 3 interviews, and we're like, at the end, we're like, or it just comes up, and we're like, I feel like they're
somehow.
a Libra.
Yeah. You're good at it too.
So glad that you're an Aries.
You crushed it.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much.
Charm was my favorite class in nursing school.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
No, what you're doing is great.
Good.
It really is. And it's really good.
Thank you.
Thank
I used
you.
the adjective electric, and I meant it.
We try. We really
Yes.
try.
Courtney's cheek, you're blushing a bit.
Courtney and I are both very passionate about sharing the stories of people's transplant experience and also educating people on the world of transplant and just informing the rest of Toronto the work that we do.
And Transplant has the best stories, I think. The best stories and the most fascinating and resilient people, both patients and staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thanks for listening to this episode of Living Transplant. If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, email us at livingorgandonation@uhn.ca.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Living Transplant on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And follow us at Give Life UHN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
See you next time.